Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly into the folds of time, into a place where dust curls up with every footstep and the sun paints everything in a tired gold. The air is dry, your lips crack just from breathing, and the huts of the village look like they are stitched from straw and stubbornness. Chickens peck around in the dirt, goats bleat half-heartedly, and somewhere a baby wails in that eternal rhythm of hunger. You walk barefoot, toes blackened with soil, ribs sharp beneath thin skin. And the thought of becoming a king is so laughable, it could be a cruel joke. And let's be honest, you wouldn't survive 5 minutes here without water, without shelter, and without the quiet knowledge of which roots will fill your stomach without poisoning you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The village is a cluster of mud walls, patched roofs, and smoky hearths that cough more than they warm. You begin here, one among many children whose names echo without meaning, swallowed by the chorus of daily survival. Every morning, the air smells faintly of smoke and millet gruel, thin enough to pour like water, but precious enough that even spilled drops are licked from the ground by stray dogs. You are poor. Not the kind of poor where you worry about shoes, but the kind where shoes are a fantasy and tomorrow's meal is never guaranteed. Historians sometimes argue whether villages like this could sustain more than a few hundred people, or whether families clung together in looser bands, shifting with the seasons. What they agree on is this: children like you were countless. Faces browned by the sun, voices hoarse from dust, futures invisible beyond the next harvest. You wake to the call of roosters, though you're never sure if they're hungry, confused, or simply mocking you. The morning sun slices through cracks in the hut's walls, turning smoke into golden shafts. Your mother stirs a pot over a fire that has burned all night. Coals banked under ash, coaxed back to life with every breath she blows. She gives you a bowl, small, warm in your hands, and though it barely fills your belly, you treat it as a feast. Hunger teaches gratitude in a way no sermon ever could. Later, you walk to the stream with other children, balancing clay pots on your head. The water is brown, slow-moving, littered with leaves, and you know that sometimes it makes people sick. But thirst does not wait for purity. You drink, wipe your mouth, and laugh with your friends as if the world itself is a game, even though deep down, you sense how fragile laughter can be. One mainstream fact anchors you here. Across countless early agrarian societies, from Mesopotamia to sub-Saharan Africa, from the Ganges Valley to the Andean highlands, childhood mortality was staggering. Some estimates suggest nearly half of all children never lived past the age of 5. You are lucky to have reached this point, though luck feels like an odd word when your belly grumbles every night. Still, there are quirky details woven into your days. A neighbor swears that tying a feather from a black hen around a child's wrist keeps away evil spirits. Another insists that sleeping with your head pointed west ensures nightmares. So you shift every evening, rotating like the hands of a clock. Whether these rituals work or not doesn't matter. They give shape to fears, a sense of control where control is scarce. And always, there is the question of fate. Did kings ever begin in places like this? Scholars debate whether the great rulers of old were born with divine spark, set apart from the cradle, or whether some truly rose from dust and anonymity. Your story insists on the latter. Though even as you shiver in the cool night and watch smoke escape through roof thatch holes like tiny ghosts, the idea of wearing a crown is more distant than the stars above you. The rhythms of village life are steady but relentless. You herd goats along thorny paths, sometimes losing one to a hidden ravine, sometimes finding another tangled in brush. You learn to mend nets with fishermen by the river, your fingers raw from hemp and your patience tested by endless tangles. The adults talk in hushed tones about taxes, soldiers, and the distant capital. Words that mean little to you but carry shadows across their faces. You absorb them like seeds waiting to sprout. At night, when the village quiets, you lie on a mat woven from reeds, staring at the roof. Through holes in the thatch, you glimpse constellations. Someone once told you those stars are stories, heroes frozen forever in the sky. You wonder whether any of them began as hungry children, gazing upward as you do now. And so your ragged beginning settles into you. The dust, the hunger, the laughter, the strange rituals, the unanswered questions. They are the soil in which your future is planted. No one would bet on you. No one imagines you'll be more than another nameless villager whose bones return to the earth. Yet already deep inside, something stirs, a restless ember, waiting. You grow in a place where hunger is not an accident. It is a teacher, a ritual, a weight you carry even in your dreams. Your ribs are not just bones, but counting sticks for seasons when the harvest fails, when the rains do not come, or when soldiers march through and take more than they leave. Hunger is the shape of your shadow, following you at dawn and at dusk, reminding you of your smallness and your need. Morning begins not with abundance, but with rationing. Your mother breaks a flatbread into 4 pieces, one for each child, though she herself eats only crumbs. You notice her cheeks have grown hollow, her hands shaking as she stirs the pot. But she hums anyway. Soft, broken tunes from her own childhood, songs that once belonged to people with full bellies. She hums because silence makes the hunger louder. You chew your piece slowly, pretending the crust takes effort, pretending your stomach will be fooled by time. You glance at your siblings, at their wide eyes, at the way they lick the bowl clean even after the food is gone. Everyone plays the same trick. Smile, laugh, stretch the moment. But the body is not fooled for long. One mainstream fact anchors this moment. Across the ancient world, from Egyptian peasants along the Nile to Chinese farmers on the Yellow River Plain, famine was common. Crop failures meant not just hunger, but often death, because storage, transport, and surplus were luxuries reserved for elites. Archaeological records reveal bones with signs of malnutrition, stunted growth, porous surfaces, illnesses that thrive when bodies are weak. Your body too carries these marks invisibly. Yet hunger also teaches ingenuity. You learn which weeds are bitter but edible, which tree bark can be shaved and boiled into something resembling soup, which insects crunch like seeds when roasted over coals. Children in your village become hunters not of deer, but of crickets, frogs, snails hiding beneath damp stones. Each discovery is a small triumph, a reminder that survival is not just endurance, but creativity. There is a quirky superstition your grandmother whispers. If you swallow a pebble before a meal, it tricks your belly into thinking you are full. You try it once, sitting behind the hut with a smooth stone between your teeth, gagging as you force it down. The sensation is heavy, strange, but for a short while, your hunger does quiet. Whether it is the stone or your imagination, you never know. Still, you keep the ritual close, swallowing small pebbles whenever the nights grow too long and the hunger too sharp. Scholars still argue whether such practices were widespread or isolated inventions. Did entire communities embrace tricks of self-deception, or were they passed quietly, family to family? The evidence is scattered, The story's mostly oral, and so the truth vanishes like smoke in wind. But for you, in this small corner of Earth, the pebble trick becomes part of your childhood. Work, too, is shaped by hunger. You fetch water not once, but 5 times a day, because thirst multiplies when food is scarce. Your arms ache carrying jars, but you know every drop matters. Sometimes the older boys dive into the river to spear fish, their bodies lean and wiry, muscles honed by necessity. You envy them, not just for their strength, but for the smell of charred fish that sometimes drifts through the village when they succeed. Your father, when he is not working fields that barely yield enough grain, tells you stories. He sits at night by the fire, his voice low and patient, telling of kings who were once nothing, of beggars who rose to command armies, of shepherds who caught the ear of gods. These tales are both comfort and cruelty. Comfort because they hint that life could be different. Cruelty because tomorrow morning you will still wake with an empty stomach, but you cling to them anyway, letting the words nest in your heart. They are seeds in barren soil, waiting for rain. One night, as the wind howls through the cracks in the hut, you dream of banquets. You see tables lined with roasted meat, golden cups brimming with wine, servants bowing with trays of fruit. You wake with saliva in your mouth and tears in your eyes. It is both a promise and a mockery. Hunger even invades your dreams. There are moments when you think you cannot endure more. Days when the fields are empty, when even weeds refuse to sprout. When your little sister faints while carrying water and no one knows if she will rise again. You kneel beside her, patting her cheek, whispering promises you cannot keep. She wakes, weak but alive, and you feel both relief and guilt. You wished for her to live, but you know her survival means more mouths to feed. And yet, in these crucibles of hunger, resilience hardens. You begin to notice that your body adjusts, that long fasts sharpen your focus, that pain dulls into background noise. You begin to walk farther, work longer, endure more than you thought possible. Hunger is your enemy, but it is also your trainer, chiseling your will as surely as a sculptor shapes stone. A peculiar memory sticks with you. Once, during a rare festival, the village butcher slaughtered an ox. Everyone gathered, and the smell of meat was intoxicating. You ate until your belly stretched tight, until you thought you might burst. That night, however, half the village groaned in pain, bodies unaccustomed to richness, bellies rebelling against sudden plenty. Some say the gods punished greed. Others say the body forgets how to digest. You laugh weakly through your cramps, but deep down, you learn something. Even abundance has its dangers. Historians puzzle over this paradox. Was hunger the crucible that birthed leaders, sharpening their minds, toughening their wills? Or did it break more spirits than it forged, leaving only rare exceptions to rise from dust? The debate continues, but you live the uncertainty firsthand. Hunger presses against you like a weight, sometimes threatening to crush, sometimes shaping you into something stronger. And so you grow taller, leaner, older. You learn that hunger is not just absence, but presence. It speaks, it directs, it teaches. It teaches patience when food is scarce, gratitude when food is found, cunning when food must be stolen. It teaches silence too, because complaining wastes energy. And in silence, you can listen for opportunity. The lessons of hunger will not leave you. They are carved into your bones, stitched into your skin, etched into your memory. And though you do not know it yet, one day they will become your crown's foundation, stronger than gold, more enduring than jewels. For now, though, you are still a child, still waking each day with a belly that aches, still learning that to endure hunger is to begin mastering yourself. The road begins not with fanfare, but with footsteps, bare, blistered and hesitant. You are no longer the child tethered to the village hearth. Hunger has not left you. It has only grown taller with you. And with it comes the realization that staying means withering. The fields will not yield more because you wish them to. The streams will not run clear because you pray harder. The walls of the village, low and crumbling, do not guard against poverty. They only confine it. And so, one morning, before the sun lifts fully over the horizon, you step beyond them. You carry little, a small cloth bundle tied at the corners, inside a heel of bread already hardening, a water skin patched so often it looks like a quilt, and a walking stick cut from a branch the night before. You whisper a goodbye, not to faces, for you cannot bear their eyes, but to the mud walls, the tethered goats, the smell of smoke and ash. You leave because to stay is to drown slowly. The path is rough, a ribbon of dust threaded with stones, sharp enough to draw blood from your heels. You feel each cut, but you also feel something new. Freedom. It tastes like the morning air. Cool against your tongue, it rings like the silence behind you, the absence of wailing infants and coughing elders. The horizon stretches endlessly, promising nothing yet hinting at everything. Historians argue about how often poor villagers truly left everything behind. Did many wander, seeking fortune, or did most cling to familiar soil until they died upon it? Records are uneven, scattered through oral tales, scraps of letters, or government decrees warning against vagrancy. Yet the figures of wanderers, beggars, dreamers, and adventurers haunt nearly every culture's memory. You become one of them now, stepping into a long lineage of restless souls. Hunger follows you, of course. You gnaw on bread crust, breaking it into smaller and smaller pieces, willing it to last. By the second day, it is gone, and you discover the bitter taste of leaves plucked roadside, the crunch of acorns not yet leached of poison, the sweetness of berries eaten too fast. You drink greedily from streams, ignoring the frog spawn, because thirst is more dangerous than caution. Your stomach cramps, your head throbs, but still you press on. And then there are strangers. The road teaches you that humans too are uncertain meals. Some offer kindness, a farmer who sees you stumbling and presses a boiled egg into your hand. A woman at a roadside shrine who leaves extra rice for the poor, muttering prayers as you eat. Others offer cruelty. A group of older boys, wanderers like you, but hungrier and meaner, snatch your stick and laugh as they chase you from a waterhole. You sleep that night shivering, not just from cold, but from the realization that humans can be hungrier than wolves. A quirky detail marks these days. You find yourself talking aloud, as if the road itself is your companion. You narrate your hunger, your blisters, your hopes. Sometimes you imagine the stones answering back, the trees humming replies. Whether this is madness or imagination, you do not know. But the silence is too deep otherwise, and your voice keeps you tethered. Days blur into weeks. The land changes, plains stretching wider, forests thicker, mountains looming in the distance like sleeping gods. You learn to read signs, bird calls near rivers, the tilt of moss for direction, the way certain flowers announce water hidden underground. Your body toughens, blisters harden into calluses, and though hunger never vanishes, you begin to carry it like an old acquaintance rather than an enemy. And still, uncertainty lingers. Scholars debate whether wanderers like you ever truly chose their path, or whether desperation simply pushed them outward. Were you seeking fortune, or were you fleeing inevitability? No one can answer fully. Even you do not know. You only know that each step takes you farther from what you were and closer to something unnamed. One evening, as twilight drapes the sky in violet, you crest a hill and see lights flickering in the distance. Not torches scattered like stars, but clustered, bright, alive. A town. You gasp, because until now, you have known only villages, tiny circles of huts. This is different. Walls rise against the sky, gates stand tall, banners flutter. The smell of cooking drifts even to where you stand, and your stomach twists violently. You quicken your pace, heart pounding with equal parts excitement and fear. Towns are promise, but they are also peril. You have heard stories. Thieves in alleyways, soldiers who conscript the young, merchants who cheat the desperate. But you also know that there is no turning back. The road has carried you here, and the road is wiser than you. That night, before you reach the gates, you sleep in a ditch by the roadside. The ground is hard, the air buzzing with crickets. But your dreams are filled with images. Marketplaces overflowing with food, coins clinking in your palm, strangers nodding in respect instead of suspicion. For the first time, you dream not of surviving, but of becoming. And so, when dawn breaks, painting the town's walls in rose and gold, you rise, dust yourself off, and walk toward them. You do not know it yet, but this road, the Wanderer's Road, will carry you from dust to throne. Each blister, each stone, each pebble swallowed in hunger has led you here. The gates rise before you like a promise and a warning. They are built of timber so thick it would take 10 men to circle one beam, bound with iron studs that catch the morning light. Above, guards lean lazily against the parapet, spears in hand, eyes half-lidded with boredom. To them, you are nothing, a ragged boy with dust on your skin and hunger in your eyes. But to you, the gates are everything. They are the threshold between the life you have always known and the life you cannot yet imagine. You shuffle closer, heart pounding. The smell of the town already reaches you. Smoke from hearths, yeast from bakeries, sweat from animals being herded toward market. The air is heavy with possibility, each scent a door to a future you do not yet know how to open. One mainstream fact anchors this moment. In nearly every ancient civilization, towns and cities became magnets for the poor and the ambitious alike. Mesopotamian records show entire families leaving rural villages during famine years, swelling the cities of Uruk or Babylon. Roman historians grumbled about peasants abandoning fields for Rome, lured by the promise of bread and spectacle. The same pattern repeats across continents. When the land fails, the roads lead to gates like these. You are part of that story now. The guards glance at you, but do not stop you. Perhaps they see no threat in your bony arms, or perhaps they are simply too tired to care. You slip past, unnoticed, swallowed by the flow of bodies. And then the town engulfs you. The noise is overwhelming. Traders shout in a dozen dialects, hawking grain, cloth, oil, and pottery. Donkeys bray, wheels creak, dogs bark, children dart between stalls, chasing each other, laughter cutting through the chaos. Women argue over prices, voices sharp as knives. A beggar strums a broken lute, its strings out of tune, but coins still clink into his bowl. Your senses reel, sight, sound, smell, all crashing at once. You stand frozen, clutching your bundle, afraid to move in case you vanish into this tide. Yet you cannot stand still forever. Hunger reminds you with a sharp twist. So you walk slowly, letting the current carry you. The market is a classroom, and you are its eager student. You notice how merchants weigh goods, how they smile too wide when selling inferior wares, how they pretend indifference when buyers hesitate, knowing hesitation breeds desire. You see how some buyers haggle fiercely, while others pay without a word, perhaps to show wealth, perhaps to hide ignorance. Every gesture, every tone becomes a lesson. There is a quirky detail you latch onto. At one stall, a spice seller flicks grains of salt dramatically into the air before scooping them for customers, as if performing magic. Children gasp, convinced he has turned plain crystals into treasure. Later you learn it is nothing but showmanship. But in the moment, it feels like sorcery. You tuck this trick away, not knowing yet how useful the art of spectacle will become. You do not buy. You have nothing to buy with. Instead, you linger at the edges, watching, listening, memorizing. Sometimes you offer to carry bundles for merchants, and though most swat you away, a few toss you crumbs, a bruised fruit, or a handful of roasted chickpeas. You eat greedily, trying to hide your desperation. For nothing marks you as prey in a town like this more than visible hunger. Still, danger lurks. An older boy, sharper-eyed than the rest, notices your hesitation. He sidles close, smiling too easily, offering to show you the town. Against your better judgment, you follow. Within minutes, you are shoved into an alley, your bundles snatched, your water skin kicked into the gutter. They leave you with nothing, laughing as you crumple against the wall. It is a harsh initiation, and it nearly breaks you. But lying there in the filth, you make a vow, not to leave, not to give up. If the town is a beast, then you will learn its language, its teeth, its claws. Hunger taught you resilience. The market will teach you cunning. That night, you sleep beneath the eaves of a warehouse, curled against the wall for warmth. Rats scurry nearby, their tiny claws clicking on stone. You are too tired to fear them. You dream of the spice seller, of his salt glittering in the air. And you think, if he can make people believe in magic with nothing but a gesture, perhaps you can too. Historians debate how many wanderers like you actually found footing in cities. Some claim most were swallowed by poverty, disappearing into anonymity, their bones lying in unmarked graves. Others argue that the chaos of towns offered opportunities, small roles, odd jobs, apprenticeships that could propel the daring upward. The truth, as always, is uncertain. But you cling to the possibility that you will be one of the few who rise. Days stretch into weeks. You learn the alleys, the shortcuts, the places where scraps are thrown after feasts. You carry water for bakers, sweep stalls for butchers, run errands for anyone willing to pay in food. Slowly, faces grow familiar. A cobbler nods when you pass. A fishmonger lets you lick the scales from his hands in exchange for cleaning his knives. Small things, but each one a thread tying you to this place. And always, you watch. You watch the wealthy glide through the market, robes trailing, servants in tow. You watch soldiers swagger, their armor glinting, their voices loud. You watch scribes with ink-stained fingers, muttering over scrolls. You watch and you imagine. You imagine being them, commanding respect, carrying weight. The thought terrifies and excites you. One afternoon, you stumble upon a gathering at the square. A man stands on a raised platform, speaking not of goods, but of ideas. He talks of justice, of fairness, of how the city must care for its poor. His words spark murmurs, nods, even applause. You do not understand all of it, but you feel something stir in you. A sense that words themselves can be weapons, sharper than blades. Later, as the crowd disperses, you hear whispers. Some call him a fool, others a visionary. Scholars still argue about figures like him. Were they true reformers or mere opportunists? Did their words ignite change, or did they vanish like smoke? But for you, standing in that square, it is enough to know that language can move people. You file it away alongside the spice seller's salt and the cobbler's nod. Another lesson: the town is not kind, but it is alive, and you are learning to live with it. You begin to realize that every hardship, the hunger of the village, the cruelty of the road, the theft in the alley, is not just suffering. It is training. Each wound is a scar, each scar a story, each story a stepping stone. And though you do not yet know how, you sense that the path from poor boy to king does not skip steps. It winds through dirt, markets, betrayals, and small victories. It teaches through loss as much as through gain. You are still near the beginning, still fragile, still uncertain, but you are moving. The road has carried you here, and the town will shape you further. Tonight, as you curl beneath the eaves once more, you whisper a promise to yourself. You will not remain invisible. One day, people will remember your name. The marketplace becomes your universe. Every morning, you rise from your corner of the warehouse, stretch stiff limbs, brush dust from your tunic, and step into the roar of life that swells with the dawn. The market is a living creature. Its heartbeats are the drum of hammers on metal, the shuffle of sandals on stone, the cry of vendors calling their wares. Its breath is the aroma of spices, of sweat, of roasted meat mingling with the sharper tang of fish left too long in the sun. You are swallowed by it daily, willingly, because it is here that you learn how fate itself is bartered. At first, you are nothing but a shadow on its edge. You linger, eyes darting, hands fidgeting, watching others buy, sell, cheat, steal. You whisper prices under your breath, practicing the rise and fall of merchants' voices. You learn quickly that numbers are not fixed. They are fluid, shaped by confidence, timing, and the tilt of an eyebrow. Bread might cost 2 coins in the morning, but only 1 if the baker's basket is still heavy at dusk. One mainstream fact rings through this lesson. In nearly all great cities of the past, marketplaces were more than centers of trade. They were the beating heart of civic life. In Athens, the agora doubled as a political stage where debates unfolded beside stalls of figs and olives. In Baghdad, the bazaar not only sold goods from India and China, but also hosted scholars who recited poetry to passing crowds. Even in smaller towns, markets carried the pulse of their people, dictating rhythm, fortune, and rumor. You stand now at such a crossroads, your future tied to the chorus of sellers and buyers. Your stomach guides your first steps. You volunteer to sweep the dust from a cloth merchant's stall, to haul jars for an oil seller, to run messages across the square. Payment is meager, a heel of bread, a sip of watered wine, but you take it gladly. Each errand buys not just food but proximity, a chance to observe. You begin to recognize the dance. The way merchants praise their goods, the way buyers feign disinterest until the last moment, the way hands linger over purses as though reluctant when, in truth, they are eager. And then there are the small tricks, quirky details that fascinate you. A fruit seller sprinkles water over his pomegranates each hour, making them glisten like jewels, though the taste remains the same. A cloth trader drapes his best fabric across his own shoulders, pretending it is too precious to part with, until a customer insists and pays double. A spice merchant burns a pinch of incense in the morning, letting its fragrance drift far down the street, luring people before they even know they are hungry for saffron or cinnamon. You watch, memorize, and begin to mimic. Soon, you try your hand. At first, it is simple. You gather herbs from the city's outskirts, bundle them, and offer them as healing charms at the market's edge. You cannot read, but you invent words, calling them blessings of the river, whispers of the forest. People laugh, but some toss you coins anyway, amused by your earnestness. The first coin in your palm feels like lightning, heavy and alive. You spend it foolishly on honey cakes. But even as the sweetness dissolves on your tongue, you realize something more intoxicating. You can create value with nothing but words and courage. Yet the market is not all generosity. One day a rival boy, older and sharper, shoves you aside, scattering your herbs into the dirt. He sneers, calling you a thief of air. You fight back, fists flying, until guards drag you both away. That night, licking wounds beneath your warehouse eave, you wonder if the market has room for two like you. The answer comes days later when you see the same boy again, not as an enemy, but as an ally. Together, you sell his stolen figs and your herbs, weaving stories that double the price. Competition has turned into partnership, necessity into trust. Historians still argue about the true role of markets in shaping rulers. Did kings and leaders learn their craft here, haggling with fishmongers and thieves? Or were markets merely the stage upon which destiny played? The records do not agree. But your story insists. Here, in the noise and barter, you learn skills no tutor could teach. Patience, persuasion, perception. Weeks stretch into months, and you become a fixture of the square. People recognize you, not as the ragged boy at the gates, but as the clever youth with a quick tongue. You carry yourself taller, your hunger less visible. You no longer beg, you bargain. You no longer watch silently, you speak. And slowly, the market begins to answer. There is a moment you will never forget. A nobleman's servant approaches, looking for someone to carry a message. He chooses you. It is a small task. Deliver a sealed scroll to a scribe, but it feels monumental. For the first time, you are trusted with something beyond scraps. The servant does not even ask your name, yet you feel as though the city itself has acknowledged you. You clutch the scroll like treasure, deliver it with trembling hands, and are paid in silver, more than you have ever held at once. That night, staring at the coin glinting in moonlight, you realize the market has given you more than food. It has given you a glimpse of something greater. The idea that trust, once earned, can be more powerful than wealth. The marketplace has become your fate, your forge. Here, among stalls and shouts, you are no longer invisible. You are becoming someone. And though you do not yet know it, these lessons of spectacle, partnership, cunning, and trust are the same ones you will one day use to rule not just a square, but a kingdom. The market sharpens your tongue, but the world sharpens your body. No king ever rose without first being tested by pain, and you are no exception. Hunger may have taught you endurance, but now life demands something harsher. The trial of the body. It begins with work. Not the light errands of sweeping stalls or running notes, but the kind of work that leaves your arms trembling, your back screaming, and your palms blistered raw. You take whatever is offered, because coins do not fall from the sky and bread does not bake itself. One day you haul sacks of grain heavier than you, the cords digging into your shoulders until you feel grooves carved into your skin. Another day you labor at the docks, rolling barrels and dragging ropes until the salt of sweat mixes with the salt of the sea. One mainstream fact gives shape to this struggle. In the ancient world, unskilled labor was the backbone of cities. The pyramids of Egypt were not raised by slaves alone, as old myths suggest, but by armies of workers paid in rations of bread and beer. Roman aqueducts, Persian roads, Chinese walls, each demanded bodies like yours, bent and burning beneath the weight of stone and timber. To survive as a poor youth in a great city was to rent out your strength, coin by coin, until your body itself became currency. And yet, there is something almost holy in the exhaustion. At night, You collapse beneath the eaves, muscles humming with pain, but also with pride. You feel yourself growing stronger, arms corded with sinew, chest broader, legs tougher. Hunger gnaws less fiercely because fatigue has dulled it. You sleep the sleep of the utterly spent, dreamless and deep, but strength alone is not enough. Soon, the city teaches you another lesson: how fragile flesh can be. One afternoon, as you unload timber near the gate, a cart overturns. Logs spill like rolling thunder, crushing everything in their path. You leap aside, but one strikes your leg, pinning you. The pain is white-hot, stealing your breath. For a moment, you think your journey ends here. Bones snap like twigs, destiny cut short in the dust, yet hands reach for you. Strangers, fellow laborers, heaving the log away, dragging you clear. They mutter prayers, spit against curses, and one presses a poultice of herbs to your swelling shin. You limp for weeks, leaning on a stick, unable to work. It is agony, not just in body but in spirit. You wonder if fate is mocking you. What use is ambition if you cannot even walk? It is here you encounter your first real brush with death, and with it, the sharp reminder of mortality. Scholars still argue how often injuries ended lives in ancient cities. Some say medical knowledge was crude, that a broken leg could kill as surely as a sword. Others point to evidence of surprisingly advanced treatments: splints, sutures, even trepanning for skull injuries. The truth lies somewhere between. For you, the uncertainty gnaws at night. Will your leg heal straight, or will you limp forever? And yet, you endure. The herbs work, the swelling fades, the bone knits. You walk again, first with pain, then with steadiness. The trial has left its mark, a scar of flesh and memory, but also a lesson. Survival is not guaranteed, and each day is a borrowed gift. You test yourself further, not always by choice. Hunger drives you to petty theft once more, snatching figs from a cart, only to be caught and beaten. The blows rain down, fists and sticks, each one exploding stars behind your eyes. You curl, shielding your head, certain this is the end. But they leave you alive, bruised but breathing. You stagger away, body screaming, and you realize pain is both punishment and teacher. There is a quirky ritual among dock workers you notice. Before lifting a heavy load, they spit into their hands, mutter a crude joke, and slap each other's backs. Some say it's for luck, others for strength, others just to mock danger. You adopt it too, and strangely, it helps. Whether it is superstition or simple camaraderie, the act reminds you that pain shared is easier to bear. And so the months pass. You become leaner, harder, tempered like metal and fire. Your body, once fragile from hunger, now carries scars and muscle. You can lift what once crushed you, endure what once broke you. Yet the greatest trial comes not from labor or beatings, but from fever. One winter, a sickness grips the town. People cough until their chests rattle. Children burn with heat and lie still. Markets empty as fear spreads faster than the illness itself. You too fall. Your body shakes, sweat pouring even as you shiver with cold. The world blurs, voices fade, and you wander in dreams of rivers and shadow. You do not know how many nights pass. Perhaps 3, perhaps 10. But when you wake, weak but alive, you know you have crossed another threshold. The sickness took others, friends, rivals, strangers, but spared you. Why? Scholars debate whether survival was chance, stronger immunity, or divine favor. You do not know, and yet the uncertainty plants itself in your heart. Perhaps fate has chosen you for something greater. When spring comes and the markets revive, you step once more into the square, thinner but fiercer. The trials of the body have not broken you. They have carved you, like stone chiseled into shape. You carry not only scars, but the quiet knowledge that each scar is proof. You are still here, and though you do not yet wear a crown, though your hands are still calloused from labor, you have taken the first steps toward kingship. For no throne can be claimed without a body that has known hunger, pain, and the edge of death, and endured. Opportunities do not arrive with trumpets. They come quietly, wrapped in chance, disguised as accidents, often when you are least prepared. You have endured hunger, pain, fever, and theft. You have labored until your bones ached, bled from beatings, survived sickness that carried others away. You are tougher now, harder, but still small in the city's eyes. And then, one day the path opens. Not with glory, but with a misstep, a coincidence, a hidden opportunity. It begins with a dropped purse. You are sweeping the edge of the spice market when you see it fall. A leather pouch, heavy, clinking, slipping unnoticed from the belt of a merchant, too distracted with shouting at his apprentice. Your heart stutters. Coins. More than you have ever seen at once. Your hands twitch, your eyes dart. In the old days, you would have snatched it without thought, run until your lungs burst. But you are not the same boy who arrived at the gates. You hesitate. In that hesitation lies your fate. You stoop, pick up the pouch, and instead of running, you call out, "Master, you drop this." The merchant whirls, eyes narrowing. For a heartbeat, suspicion burns in his gaze. But then he sees your open palm, the pouch untouched, and his face softens. He takes it, weighs it, and for the first time in your life, someone of his stature clasps your shoulder. "Honesty," he mutters, "rare in these streets." He presses a small coin into your hand. Payment, yes, but also recognition. Historians debate endlessly whether honesty ever truly benefited the poor in ancient cities. Some argue it was a luxury one few could afford. Others point to stories of rulers who began with small acts of integrity, gestures that marked them as different, trustworthy, destined. Was it moral strength or mere chance? The records are silent. But in this moment, your choice alters your course. The merchant remembers you. Days later, he summons you to help at his stall. At first, it is simple work, hauling sacks, stacking jars, fetching water. But gradually, he lets you stand beside him, listening to his bargains, repeating his phrases. He corrects your tone, teaches you when to pause, when to push. He even lets you weigh the spices, showing you how a single pinch can change profit. You are no longer just a laborer. You are an apprentice of the market's deeper art. A quirky detail endears you further. One afternoon, a noblewoman arrives, demanding saffron, her voice sharp, her purse heavy. The merchant bows, but before he can speak, you notice her servant slipping figs from a nearby cart. Without thinking, you step forward and distract the servant, pointing out a loose strap on his sandal. The figs tumble, the theft exposed, and the noblewoman, amused by your sharp eyes, laughs. She buys twice as much saffron, praising the merchant's clever boy. From that day, you are not just an apprentice, you are an asset. Opportunity, you learn, is rarely about strength. It is about presence, being in the right place, seeing what others miss, acting when others hesitate. You carry this lesson like a jewel in your pocket. Weeks become months. You grow in confidence. Your clothes no longer rags, but simple, clean tunics the merchant provides. You eat better, sleep under a roof in his storeroom, even wash in warm water on occasion. For the first time, you feel almost secure. Yet you do not forget the warehouse eaves, the rats, the pebbles swallowed against hunger. You carry those memories like armor. Then comes the moment that truly changes you. A caravan arrives from far lands, laden with silks, jewels, strange birds in cages. The market buzzes louder than ever, crowds pressing close. Among them is a minor official, tasked with recording the caravan's wares for taxation. His assistant falters, struggling with numbers, fumbling with ink. The crowd grows restless. Without planning, you step forward. You offer to tally, your voice steady. The official, irritated but desperate, waves you on. You count aloud, fingers quick, memory sharp. You keep pace with the caravan master, even catching a mistake. A crate mislisted. The official blinks, surprised. "Sharp eyes indeed," he mutters. The caravan master laughs and tosses you a coin. The merchant beams with pride. That night, lying in your cot, you realize you have crossed another threshold. No longer invisible, you are noticed. By merchants, by nobles, by officials. The city has seen you. Scholars still debate whether such moments truly altered lives or whether they were embellished in later retellings. Did a single honest act or sharp calculation truly matter? Or were they swept away by larger tides of politics and war? Perhaps. But for you, here and now, it is undeniable. A door has cracked open. You glimpse beyond the marketplace into the corridors of influence. The hidden opportunity is not just the merchant's favor or the noblewoman's laughter. It is the realization that you can shape perception, that your choices ripple outward, that honesty, cleverness, and courage can lift you higher than muscle ever could. And so you sleep with a coin clutched in your palm, dreaming not of bread or figs, but of futures where men bow when you pass. You do not yet know how you will climb further, but you sense now that the climb is possible. Authority does not arrive as a crown placed gently upon your head. It comes in whispers, in small tasks given, in the weight of responsibility handed to you before you even realize you have the strength to carry it. You have been a laborer, a beggar, an errand runner, and now a trusted hand at the merchant's stall. But the day comes when you feel something new. The strange, intoxicating taste of command. It begins one morning when your master, the spice merchant, is called away. A distant cousin lies ill, and he must leave the city for several days. Before departing, he gestures to his stall, to the jars of saffron and pepper, the bundles of cinnamon, the blocks of frankincense stacked like treasure. "Watch it," he says simply, pressing a key into your palm. The weight of that small iron key burns like fire. The stall is his livelihood, his pride, his future. And now it rests in your care. The first hours are agony. Customers arrive, eyes sharp, voices demanding. You stammer at first, your fingers fumbling with weights and measures. But then you remember, you have watched him 100 times. You know his tricks, his pauses, his smiles. You straighten your back, lower your voice into confidence, and begin to bargain. By midday, your hands move, as if born to it. By dusk, you realize something startling. You have not just survived the day, you have thrived. The coin box is heavy. One mainstream fact shines through here. In many ancient cities, apprentices often ran businesses in their master's absence. Archaeological records from Mesopotamia and Egypt show young men signing tablets on behalf of their patrons or managing stalls when elders were ill. Authority was rarely handed to the very poor, but when it came, even briefly, it changed everything. You stand now in that same lineage, an apprentice turned steward. And with it comes a sensation you have never felt before. When you call out prices, people listen. When you wave your hand, others wait. Even the beggar boy who once taunted you now lingers, cautious, unsure if you will help or ignore him. The market, once a beast that swallowed you, now seems to bow ever so slightly to your voice. Yet authority is never without challenge. A rival merchant, seeing the stall in the hands of a boy, attempts to undercut you, slashing prices and mocking your inexperience. For a moment, you tremble. Then, remembering your master's lessons, you shift tactics. Instead of lowering your prices, you raise them. You boast of purity, of rare imports, of spices blessed by faraway temples. You sprinkle a little saffron dramatically into the air, letting the golden threads catch sunlight. The crowd gasps, enchanted by your audacity. And to your shock, they buy. The rival glares, defeated. Authority is not just about command, it is about confidence, spectacle, belief. A quirky detail cements your new role. That evening, as you close the stall, a stray cat leaps onto the counter, purring loudly. Without thinking, you scratch its head. The next day, the cat returns, and customers laugh, calling it your guardian spirit. They joke that the cat blesses every measure of spice. You play along, feeding it scraps, letting it lounge among the jars. Soon people come not only for saffron, but to see the merchant's boy with the lucky cat. You realize, amused and astonished, that even animals can become tools of authority if you let them. But power brings unease as well. Some mutter that you are too young, too bold, that your arrogance will bring ruin. You hear whispers in the taverns, snickers in the alleys. Scholars still argue whether early authority strengthened or corrupted the ambitious poor. Did they rise because they proved capable, or because they learned to bend rules, to blur lines between service and self? For you, the question gnaws at night. Are you serving your master faithfully, or are you building something of your own? The days stretch on, and each one grows easier. You command not just the stall, but the people around it. You direct the boy who sweeps, the woman who carries jars, the older apprentice who once sneered at you. They obey, begrudgingly at first, then more naturally. You discover that authority is addictive. When you tell someone to move, and they move. When you set a price, and it is paid. You feel something spark inside you. Something hungrier than hunger, stronger than muscle. When your master returns, he is astonished. The stall is not only intact, but richer, its profits greater than ever. He studies you with new eyes, no longer as a ragged boy he once pitied, but as a partner, a protege. You have a gift, he admits. And in that moment, you feel the future shift. Authority, you learn, is not a throne or a crown. It is the trust of others, the obedience of voices, the power to shape outcomes with a word or gesture. You have tasted it now, and it lingers on your tongue like spice. Sharp, dangerous, irresistible. That night, lying in your cot, the cat curled against your feet, you whisper to yourself, if a stall can bend to your will, why not a street? If a street, why not a district? If a district, why not a city? The thought terrifies you, but also thrills. The seed of kingship has sprouted. It is small, fragile, invisible to others, but you feel it pushing upward, breaking soil. You close your eyes, the iron key still in your palm, and dream not of bread, not of coins, but of a seat higher than any merchant's bench. A seat from which voices echo, armies march, banners wave. A throne. Authority in the market is one thing. Coins counted, jars sealed, prices set. Authority among the powerful is another, far more slippery. You first glimpse it when your master receives an invitation. A gathering at a noble's estate where merchants and officials mingle, their words as sharp as their daggers. He cannot attend, and to your shock, he sends you in his place. You scrub yourself clean, borrow a tunic finer than any you have ever worn, and step through gates carved with lions and laurels. The air smells not of sweat and spice, but of oil lamps and roasted meats. Musicians pluck strings in the background, their melodies winding like serpents. Servants glide silently with trays of wine, their eyes lowered. You are dizzy from it all, not from drink, but from the realization that you have entered a different world, one of whispers and masks. The nobles glance at you, curious. Some sneer, others smile faintly. They ask questions not to know you, but to measure you, as though weighing whether you are threat, tool, or toy. You answer carefully, recalling every trick learned in the market. You flatter without groveling, you jest without insolence. You listen more than you speak. Slowly, their curiosity shifts to interest. You feel the air tighten, as though invisible threads are being spun around you. One mainstream fact grounds this scene. Across empires, from Rome to China to the courts of Mughal India, politics was not conducted in public forums alone, but in private halls, salons, and banquets. Deals were struck not in daylight, but in candlelight, over cups of wine and plates of figs. You stand now in such a place, where whispers weigh more than swords. Here, you learn quickly that truth matters less than perception. A noble brags of lands he barely controls. Another boasts of victories fought by men he never met. Their words are theater, their smiles weapons. You recall the spice merchant sprinkling saffron into sunlight, and you realize these men do the same with themselves. They glitter to hide their flaws, and you begin to glitter too. You tell a story of catching a caravan's mistake, of saving a noblewoman from a thieving servant. You downplay your role, then let others press you for details, until your modesty becomes another kind of boast. They laugh, they nod, they refill your cup. Authority in the market was about weight and measure. Authority here is about silence and suggestion. A quirky detail stays with you from that night. In one corner of the hall, a caged bird sings, a nightingale with feathers like embers. Nobles approach it in turn, whispering secrets as though the bird itself is an oracle. You watch, bemused, until someone explains. The bird is said to carry gossip to the gods. Whether true or not, everyone believes it. And so it becomes part of the court's fabric. You file this away. Sometimes symbols matter more than sense, but whispers carry danger too. You overhear talk of bribes disguised as gifts, of soldiers paid under the table, of rivals slandered with rumors until their reputations crumble. You realize that in this world, a misplaced word can be deadlier than a dagger. You tread carefully, tongue measured, ears open. Scholars still debate whether such whispers were more powerful than armies. Did empires rise and fall because of steel or because of rumor, intrigue, and betrayal? No answer satisfies fully. But as you stand in that hall, you feel the truth. Armies march because whispers set them in motion. Kings fall because whispers cut their thrones from beneath them. When the night ends, you leave not with a full belly, though you ate better than ever before, but with a head buzzing from voices. You have touched a new kind of power, subtle and intoxicating. You are no longer just a boy who sells herbs or saffron. You are a player, however small, in the court of whispers. Days later, you notice a change. Officials nod when they pass you in the market. A noble servant greets you by name. Your master eyes you warily, sensing you are slipping into circles beyond his reach. You do not boast, but inside you know. Once a man tastes the court, the market seems small, yet doubt gnaws as well. In the quiet of night, lying with the lucky cat purring at your feet, you wonder, are you weaving your own fate, or are you being woven into others' games? Authority, you discover, is not just about commanding. It is about surviving the whispers that never sleep. And so, the boy who once swallowed pebbles to silence hunger now swallows words, storing them like weapons, waiting for the moment to release them. The court has taught you this. Silence is not emptiness, but power withheld. Whispers may sharpen your mind, but there comes a time when words alone cannot hold ground. Cities may be ruled by rumor, but kingdoms are carved and defended by steel. And so, sooner than you expect, you find yourself tested in the crucible of battle. Not the stage theater of merchants or nobles, but the raw clash of bodies, blades, and breath. It begins with unrest. A noble feud spills into the streets, merchants aligning with one patron or another, soldiers patrolling, eyes watchful. Taxes rise, tempers flare, and in the chaos, the poor suffer most. Markets close early, thieves grow bolder, fights break out in alleys. You try to keep to the sidelines, remembering the safety of silence. But one cannot stay invisible forever. One morning, soldiers come recruiting. They march through the square, banners snapping, armor gleaming. They speak of honor, of pay, of glory in service. But beneath the honeyed words lies a simpler truth. They need bodies, and yours is strong enough. You are conscripted, handed a spear rougher than the broom you once pushed, and told to march. The training is brutal. You rise before dawn, drill until your arms ache, run until your lungs burn. You learn to thrust the spear, to raise a shield, to march in formation without breaking stride. The first days are misery. Your hands blister, your feet bleed, your head throbs from the bellowing of captains. But slowly, repetition carves instinct. Your body remembers before your mind does, and you find a grim rhythm. One mainstream fact grounds this experience. In ancient armies, the poor filled the ranks. From Rome's legions to the phalanxes of Greece, from Chinese peasant levies to the footmen of Mesopotamia, it was men like you who bore the brunt of battle. The wealthy commanded, the poor bled. Yet for some, military service became a ladder, offering pay, prestige, even the possibility of land or rank. You march now on that same uncertain path. The first skirmish terrifies you. Bandits ambush a caravan, and you are thrown into the fray. The world narrows to sound, shouts, metal clashing, the scream of a mule, and to sensation. The weight of the spear, the jolt as it strikes, the hot spray you dare not name. You do not think, you simply move, trained instinct guiding you. When it is over, you are shaking, teeth chattering though the day is warm. Blood stains your tunic, some yours, most not. You have survived. That night, sitting by the fire, you realize the battle has changed you. The fear still clings, but beneath it lies something else. A strange clarity. You know now that death is real. Close, unromantic. But you also know you did not falter. You did not run. A spark of pride glows beneath the terror. A quirky detail etches itself into your memory. Among the soldiers is a man who fights with a pigeon feather tied to his helmet. He claims it brings him luck, that the gods see the bird and guide his spear true. Others laugh, but in battle he moves with uncanny precision, always seeming untouched. You find yourself glancing at the feather mid-fight, half believing it. Later, when you recall the day, You cannot separate his skill from the superstition. Campaigns drag on. You march through mud, through heat, through snow that bites your skin. You share stale bread, hard cheese, water that tastes of leather. You sleep beneath the stars, your shield a pillow, your sword a bedfellow. You grow accustomed to the rhythm. March, drill, fight, rest, repeat. Your body hardens, your mind sharpens, your spirit bends, but does not break. And yet, questions gnaw at you. Scholars still debate whether the poor who fought in such armies truly rose from their ranks, or whether they were forever pawns in greater games. Some records tell of generals born from shepherds, kings who once wielded farm tools. Others suggest such tales were myths, crafted to inspire loyalty among the masses. You do not know which is true. You only know that each battle you survive feels like another rung climbed on a ladder no one else can see. In one clash, your captain falls. Chaos threatens the line, men faltering. Without thinking, you step forward, bellowing orders, rallying them. Your voice cuts through panic, and for a moment, they listen. You hold the line until reinforcements arrive. Afterward, the commander praises you, claps your shoulder, and grants you a small but potent gift: authority. You are no longer just another spear in the wall, you are one who can command. The crucible of battle has forged more than scars. It has given you presence, tested not just your body, but your will. You have felt fear and not fled, seen death and not crumbled. Authority in the market was intoxicating, whispers in the court were subtle. But here, on the field, authority is raw, immediate, undeniable. Men obey you because their lives depend on it. And you, for the first time, feel the weight of lives in your hands. When you return to the city, limping but alive, you are not the same youth who once swept stalls. You carry yourself differently, shoulders squared, eyes steady. People notice. The market greets you with respect, the court with curiosity. The boy who swallowed pebbles is now a soldier who has faced steel. And though you do not yet wear a crown, you have taken one step closer. You cannot climb alone. The path from dust to throne is not a solitary road, though hunger once convinced you it was. Authority, whispers, battle, they have given you strength, but now you learn the truth. Progress depends on others. Some will lift you higher than you could ever reach. Others will claw at you, pulling, testing, trying to break your grip. Allies and rivals, two faces of the same coin. The first ally arrives almost by accident. He is a fellow soldier, scarred, older, but quick with laughter. You notice him when he shares his water during a march, though his own flask is nearly empty. In the nights that follow, by firelight, he tells you stories of campaigns past, of commanders who rose from nothing, of comrades lost and remembered. He becomes not just a companion, but a brother of sorts. Someone who steadies your resolve when fear whispers too loudly. Allies are not always chosen. Sometimes they emerge like gifts. One mainstream fact anchors this truth. History is filled with rulers whose rise was made possible not by solitary genius, but by networks of loyalty. Alexander had his companions, Caesar his legions, Genghis Khan his sworn brothers. Power rarely grows in isolation. It blooms in the soil of trust. You feel that now, as bonds begin to wrap around you like armor. But for every ally, there is a rival. Your first is a man not much older than you, sharp-eyed, ambitious, and unwilling to share the light. He mocks your rise, sneers at your victories, spreads whispers that you are untested, lucky rather than skilled. At first, you ignore him. But rivals have a way of multiplying unless checked. He challenges you openly in training, trying to humiliate you before the ranks. The clash is fierce, wooden swords striking until splinters fly. You stagger, nearly fall, but you refuse to yield. At last, with a desperate twist, you disarm him. The men cheer, the rival glares. And though the fight ends, the rivalry does not. He becomes a shadow at your back, reminding you that every step upward earns you an enemy as well as respect. A quirky detail softens the edge of these tensions. Among your comrades is a cook, round-faced and perpetually cheerful. His stews are legendary, not for taste but for timing. Somehow, they appear steaming at the exact moment morale begins to crack. Soldiers joke that he must be blessed by the gods of hunger. You laugh too, but deep down you see the truth. Sometimes the smallest figures, the least likely allies, are the ones who keep men alive and loyal. As your circle grows, so too does your influence. Allies begin to look to you, not just for friendship, but for direction. They echo your words, follow your lead in drills, carry your messages in the court. Rivals, meanwhile, sharpen your caution. You learn to watch for daggers, not only in alleys, but in smiles. Trust becomes both lifeline and risk. Historians argue whether ambition unites or divides. Some say great leaders gathered allies, only to discard them when power was secured. Others insist loyalty was the very foundation of their reigns. The truth is uncertain, blurred by chronicles written to flatter or condemn. You live the uncertainty each day. When a man swears loyalty, is it to you or to the opportunity you represent? One evening, your ally, the scarred soldier, warns you. Beware the ones who praise too quickly. True trust takes time. His words linger. You begin to test those around you, offering small chances to prove themselves. Some fail, some surprise you, some vanish. The circle tightens, yet even rivals serve a purpose. They sharpen you, force you to grow. Without them, perhaps you would soften, complacent in praise. With them, you remain vigilant. You begin to see rivalry not as curse, but as training. Another crucible, less bloody than battle, but no less real. In the court, too, allies and rivals multiply. A minor noble lends you his ear, finding your blunt honesty refreshing amid endless flattery. Another sees you as a threat, whispering that you are dangerous, ambitious, ungrateful. You smile at both, bow to both, but inside, you weigh them carefully, placing each piece on the board. And so, you walk now not as a solitary boy, but as a node in a web, threads binding you to others, threads tugging in different directions. Some threads lift, others snare, all of them pulling you deeper into the game. The lesson becomes clear. To rise is not only to build strength, or to master whispers, or to survive battle. It is to learn which hands to clasp and which to let go, to balance trust and caution, to gather allies without being blinded by their praise, to face rivals without letting hatred consume you. That night, as the lucky cat curls at your feet once more, you realize something astonishing. You are no longer walking the road alone. Every step you take now echoes with the footsteps of others. Allies steady you, rivals test you, and together they form the path that stretches toward a crown you can almost glimpse. The crown has always been a dream too distant to touch, shimmering on the horizon like a mirage. But now, after years of hunger, labor, whispers, and war, you begin to sense it is no longer just a dream. It hovers closer, almost within reach, like the faint outline of a mountain revealed after endless valleys. It begins with recognition. No longer are you the boy who swept stalls or the soldier who carried water. You are spoken of in the court by name, whispered of in the market with respect, even invoked among soldiers as one who stood firm when others faltered. Doors that were once barred begin to crack open. Invitations arrive not just from merchants, but from nobles. You are summoned to councils, asked for advice. At first you sit silently, listening, but soon you find your voice. And when you speak, heads turn. One mainstream fact underscores this moment. In nearly every ancient empire, outsiders occasionally rose into the ranks of the elite. Eunuchs in China, freedmen in Rome, viziers in Egypt, men who began in obscurity, but through cunning and loyalty, reached the inner circle. Chroniclers sometimes marveled, sometimes condemned, but always recorded such figures as proof that power could leap across class. You are walking that same razor's edge now. The court becomes a stage for your ascent. You learn when to speak boldly, when to hold silence, when to let another claim credit so that you might gain something subtler. Trust. You advise a noble to lower his taxes slightly, and riots in his district fade. You warn a commander to watch a rival's flank, and a battle is won with fewer losses. Each act is small, but each adds weight to your reputation. Slowly, you are no longer just present. You are necessary, and yet, necessity breeds fear. Rivals bristle, whispering that you are too ambitious, that you overstep. Some urge the ruler himself to beware. You feel eyes on you at all times, measuring, judging, waiting for misstep. The crown may be near, but so too are the daggers. It is here you face your greatest test yet, not of body, but of patience. A position opens. Steward of the city's trade, a role close to the throne. Many vie for it, including those who despise you. You prepare, gather allies, sharpen your words. But the decision lingers, delayed, and uncertainty stretches like a taut rope. Nights are sleepless, each whisper of wind sounding like betrayal, each shadow like a rival's smile. A quirky detail eases your tension. During this waiting, you notice the lucky cat has taken to sitting on the highest shelf of the storeroom, watching you with half-closed eyes as though judging your pacing. One evening, a servant jokes that the cat is already practicing sitting upon a throne. The laughter breaks your fear for a moment, reminding you that even destiny must be lived one day at a time. Finally, the summons comes. You are called into the great hall, its pillars towering, its floor polished to mirror brightness. The ruler himself sits at the far end, attendants clustered like shadows. Names are called, candidates presented. You bow, heart hammering. And then, against all odds, your name is chosen. You are declared steward, your duty to oversee trade for the city, your authority second only to nobles of blood. The hall erupts, some with applause, others with whispers sharp as knives. You rise dizzy, the words echoing in your ears. Steward, authority not of a stall or a company, but of an entire city's commerce. You feel the crown inch closer, not yet on your head, but no longer out of sight. Historians disagree on whether such meteoric rises were truly possible, or whether later stories exaggerated them to inspire. Some argue no boy of dust could ever climb so high. Others insist the very exceptions prove the rule. You, however, live the uncertainty as truth. You know each step has been real, each scar earned, each whisper navigated, and yet you also know the climb is not done. The closer you come to the crown, the sharper the dangers grow. Rivals who once mocked you now fear you. Allies who once supported you now envy. Every gesture, every glance carries weight. You feel the throne's shadow pressing against you, reminding you that to reach for it is to risk everything. That night, alone in your chamber, you stare at your reflection in a polished bronze mirror. The face staring back is no longer that of the hungry child, nor the weary soldier. It is harder, sharper, eyes steadier, jaw set. And yet, somewhere deep, The boy who once swallowed pebbles to trick his belly still lingers. You whisper to him softly, "We are close now. Do not falter." The crown within reach gleams like a star just beyond your fingertips. You know it will not come freely. You know it will demand more trials, more betrayals, more nights of doubt. But for the first time, you believe, truly believe, that you can grasp it. The crown, when at last it rests upon your head, is not light. It presses into your skull with a weight far heavier than the iron itself. You dreamed of this moment, through hunger, through battle, through whispers and labor. You imagined triumph, glory, feasts in your honor. And yet, when the circlet touches your brow, what you feel most of all is gravity. A burden, immense and unrelenting. The hall cheers. Nobles applaud with measured smiles. Soldiers thump their spears. The people outside roar until the sound seems to shake the very stones. You bow, you rise, you speak words of gratitude. But beneath the ritual, your chest tightens. For every cheer, you hear an echo of expectation. For every bow, a reminder that every eye now watches your every breath. One mainstream fact steadies this realization. In the annals of history, rulers across empires often spoke of the unbearable pressure of rule. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher and emperor, confessed that power chained him more than it freed him. Ashoka of India, after battles, wrote of sleepless nights haunted by the dead. Even kings wrapped in silks and jewels bore invisible chains heavier than any beggar's yoke. You now join their company. Your crown a burden disguised as gold. The responsibilities flood in immediately. Disputes between merchants, complaints from peasants about taxes, reports from generals of unrest at the borders. Each voice demands an answer, and each answer carries consequences that ripple far beyond the chamber. You once bargained for jars of saffron. Now you bargain for lives, for grain that must feed thousands, for peace that hangs by a whisper. The court shifts around you. Allies who helped you rise now clamor for rewards. Rivals bow, but sharpen daggers in secret. Every decision feels like a test, every gesture scrutinized. You learn to keep your face calm even when your mind storms. You learn to nod when you want to scream, to pause when you want to act. Rule, you discover, is a performance as much as a responsibility. A quirky detail emerges in these early days. Each morning, before you sit upon the throne, servants bring a basin of water. It is tradition for the ruler to wash his hands, a symbol of purity before judgment. Yet one old attendant whispers that in ancient times, rulers also whispered their fears into the water, believing it carried them away. Curious, you try it. Each dawn you bend over the basin, murmuring your doubts, too soft for others to hear, and watch as ripples swallow them. Do the fears truly vanish? Perhaps not. But the ritual steadies you, and soon it becomes as essential as the crown itself. And still, doubt lingers. Scholars debate whether rulers ever truly commanded their realms, or whether they were prisoners of circumstance, pushed by famine, by war, by the will of nobles. Were they masters of fate, or servants wearing crowns? You feel the uncertainty daily. Some mornings you stride with confidence, convinced you shape destiny. Other nights, you lie awake, heart racing, certain you are but a reed tossed in storms too vast to control. The throne itself teaches you. You learn that generosity wins hearts but drains coffers, that cruelty enforces order but seeds rebellion, that silence is as powerful as command. You weigh each act, each word, knowing that too much or too little can undo you. The crown grants no manual, only choices, and choices always wound someone. Your people's faces haunt you. The peasants in the market, the soldiers at the gates, the beggar who still strums his broken lute. You rule them all now, yet you feel the thread that binds you is fragile. One famine, one defeat, one whisper too loud, and the cheers could turn to curses, and yet you endure. Day after day, you sit upon the throne, the lucky cat now fat and lazy in the palace halls, curling at your feet as though mocking the weight you bear. You smile faintly at it sometimes, remembering the boy you once were, the boy who dreamed of kingship while chewing stolen figs. The weight of rule is heavy, but it is yours. You have grasped what once seemed impossible, and though it bends your shoulders, you will not let it break you. For the crown is not just burden, it is proof. Proof of every hunger endured, every scar earned, every whisper survived. The crown presses harder with each passing year. At first, you bore its weight with pride, standing taller as if your body could outmuscle the burden. But time, like water on stone, begins to wear at you. Shadows creep in. Shadows not of enemies, but of memory, of self, of the doubts that whisper louder in silence than any rival does in public. You remember the hunger. No feast, no banquet, no overflowing platter can erase it. Even now, seated at a table laden with roasted meats, golden chalices, and exotic fruits, you sometimes chew slowly, tasting not the spice of saffron, but the bitterness of acorns you once gnawed to survive. Servants think your silence is solemnity. In truth, you are back in the mud, barefoot, ribs sharp, swallowing pebbles to trick your belly. The crown does not silence the boy you were, it amplifies him. One mainstream fact grounds this truth. Many rulers carried scars of their youth into their reigns. Napoleon, mocked for his Corsican accent, sought glory to silence ridicule. Joseph Stalin, once a poor shoemaker's son, ruled with suspicion, never forgetting the precariousness of childhood hunger. Even emperors cloaked in jewels were often haunted by origins they could never shed. You, too, are shaped by the ghost of poverty, its fingers still tugging at your sleeve. But shadows are not only from the past. They gather in the present, coiling in corners of the court. Advisors nod. But do they truly serve you? Allies smile. But are their loyalties to you or to themselves? Rivals bow. But what daggers glint beneath their cloaks? Every whisper carries weight now, and the cord of whispers you once navigated with confidence feels heavier, darker. Suspicion becomes habit, and habit becomes cage. You find yourself testing even those closest to you, sending conflicting instructions, measuring who repeats what, who betrays which secret. Each betrayal confirmed feeds your caution. Each loyalty proven feeds your paranoia. You begin to wonder, is doubt wisdom, or is it poison? Historians still argue the same question. Were kings right to distrust endlessly, or did their suspicions sow the very treachery they feared? The answer, elusive then as now, haunts you. And then there are the nights. Sleep does not come easily. You lie beneath embroidered canopies, soft linens cradling you, yet your eyes remain open. The ceiling feels like sky pressed too low. You hear echoes, cheers from Coronation Day, groans from the battlefield, laughter from the market. You hear your rival's mocking voice, your ally's steady one, your mother's song over thin gruel. Shadows swirl until dawn bleeds through shutters, and you rise weary, haunted. A quirky detail becomes your strange comfort. In the palace garden grows a small olive tree, twisted, ancient. No one remembers who planted it, though some claim it sprouted from a pit discarded by a long-dead cook. Each morning, you walk there, touching its gnarled bark, pressing your palm against it. Servants think it is ritual. In truth, it is memory. The tree reminds you that roots in harsh soil can still reach for the sun. You whisper to it sometimes, as you once whispered to the water basin. And though it never answers, its silence soothes you more than counsel ever does. Still, the shadows gnaw. You wonder if the boy you once were would recognize you now, or despise you. You wonder if every step, every bargain, every battle has truly been progress, or if you have merely traded one cage for another. Freedom from hunger, yes. Freedom from obscurity, yes. But freedom from doubt? Never. And so, each day upon the throne becomes a balancing act, not just of ruling others, but of ruling yourself. The shadow of doubt is heavier than the crown, more relentless than enemies. It reminds you that kingship is not triumph, but trial without end. The throne that once gleamed like a beacon now feels quiet, almost too quiet. The hall where you sit is vast, filled with tapestries and statues, yet it hums with a kind of silence that no cheering crowd can break. You have climbed every rung, through hunger, through wandering, through whispers, through battles, through authority gained and tested. And here you are, seated where once you only dreamed. Yet the crown, heavier than iron, rests not just on your head, but upon your soul. The years have etched themselves into you. Your shoulders are broader, your eyes darker, your voice steadier. People bow when you pass, but you barely notice anymore. The thrill of command has softened into routine. Orders given, decrees signed, disputes judged. It has become the rhythm of your life, steady as the beating of your heart. And yet, when night falls and torches gutter low, you sometimes wonder, was this the journey's end, or merely another beginning? One mainstream fact offers perspective. Many rulers describe their later years not as triumph, but as burden. Emperor Augustus, after decades of power, sighed that he had played his part in a play too long. Chinese emperors, wrapped in silk, often envied the freedom of farmers in their fields. Even kings of medieval Europe confessed to priests that they dreamed of simpler lives. You now join that lineage, discovering that power does not end the journey. It only reshapes it. Your memories return often. You see the dust of your village, the cracked lips of children waiting for thin bowls of gruel. You feel again the blisters of the road, the pebble in your belly, the laughter of those who robbed you in alleys. You hear the clatter of the marketplace, the bellow of captains on the training field, the hush of nobles whispering behind veils. They swirl together like ghosts, reminding you that you are made of every moment, not just the throne. A quirky detail makes you smile even now. The lucky cat, once lean and scrappy, is old and fat, sleeping most of the day in a patch of sunlight near your dais. Courtiers laugh at its presence, but you keep it close. Some joke that it is the true ruler, that decisions are blessed by the flick of its tail. You let them laugh. For in truth, the cat is your reminder. Even kings need small comforts. Even rulers are still human, and yet the shadows persist. Doubt lingers. Was your rise fortune or fate? Did you seize destiny, or did destiny seize you? Scholars still argue such questions of kings past, debating whether greatness is born or made, chosen or accidental. You cannot answer even for yourself. You only know you walked the road laid before you, one step at a time, until the dust of poverty became the stone of the throne. The throne is quiet now, but it is your quiet. The murmurs of the court fade as you dismiss them, The echoes of soldiers' boots soften in distant corridors. You sit alone, the crown pressing but steady, the weight immense yet familiar. You exhale, long and slow. The boy who once swallowed pebbles to endure hunger has at last become a king who swallows silence to endure power. And in that silence, you realize something profound. The journey was never about the crown itself. It was about endurance, about learning to carry hunger without breaking, to walk roads without turning back, to wield words, to survive battles, to balance allies and rivals, to shoulder doubts without surrendering. The crown is only a symbol. The true kingship was forged long before it touched your brow. You close your eyes, the hall dim around you, the cat purring softly at your feet. And for the first time in years, you feel something like peace.